Hey, this is Tim Atlas, and this is The Hardest Part. Hello, and welcome to The Hardest Part, the show that unravels the stories behind the most challenging songs ever written. I'm Kieron Banerji, and joining me in the studio on this episode is Brooklyn-based singer, songwriter and producer Tim Atlas, who brought his track Out Cold with him, taken from his 2024 record Almonte. When I spoke with Tim about the song, he explained that the song came to life during a period when he was renting an apartment in Brooklyn and trying to decide whether or not to make the city his home. Well, with just his laptop and guitar, he had limited resources, which surprisingly helped spark his creativity. Writing in an unfamiliar environment, Tim found himself with a lot of time to reflect, leading to a moment of clarity. He mentioned that often when writing, the true meaning of a song doesn't reveal itself until later, and Out Cold was no exception. At its core, the song is about trust issues and how they can impact your day-to-day life and relationships. For Tim, this process brought up old emotions and past relationship trauma, and he hadn't really expected to revisit these feelings. Writing this track forced him to confront these resurfacing emotions, making it one of the more challenging songs on the album. Make sure to stay tuned to hear Out Cold in full at the end of this episode. But before that, here's my chat with Tim Atlas. Yeah, so this song is called Out Cold. This one started in an apartment that I was renting in Brooklyn when I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to live there. So I set up my laptop and a guitar, and that's pretty much it. And so it was sort of limited resources on what I had to make a song. And I guess that helped creatively. I was also in a kind of unfamiliar environment, and so yeah, this is one of the first songs I wrote in New York, and it was an interesting one. I guess when you're traveling alone, you have a lot of time to think and grapple with a lot of things, past and present.
Can be a moment of clarity, right?
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, so those were the conditions for this song. And I think a lot of the time when you write a song, you're not, or me personally, I'm not entirely sure what it's about until it kind of reveals itself. And this one was just about, at the core of it, it's about trust issues and how those trust issues affect your day-to-day, your current relationships. And yeah, it was just kind of grappling with that and trying to understand how these things affect you. And so it brought up a lot of old emotions and old relationship trauma. I'm very happily in a relationship now, but yeah, that's why this was hard, because it was just kind of bringing up these old familiar emotions that I didn't think I would really have to deal with, but they find their way to the surface at some point.
Tell me what the sky looks like when it's not raining outside. Color is a privilege, and most of us see black and white.
Yeah, trust is a funny one, isn't it? It's I've been in the same situation as you, where it's previous trust issues have then kind of reared their head in other seemingly good situations, and makes you second guess everything, right? And it's I think trust is one of the hardest things to rebuild. So I'm interested, because obviously the lyrics are very specific, and I think if anyone was to listen to the song, they would assume it was about someone or something in particular, or a friendship in particular. When you wrote the song, it wasn't specifically about any one person, but the concept of trust.
It was about someone, actually. It was, and
but I didn't quite know it like when I was writing it, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, songwriting is an interesting one because you're kind of pulling from a lot of different places, and I just didn't expect to pull from that particular place.
Was there a particular spark, a particular moment when you kind of remember the song starting to take shape?
I think like while I was walking around New York City, I was listening to a lot of like Steve Lacy and Frank Ocean. Like the way that I perform the song today is feels like a very sort of singer-songwriter and you know, guitar and vocals, but like as I added more like 808 drums and started to build around it sonically, everything started to kind of take shape.
When you were writing the song, was there any specific thing you wanted to communicate with your audience?
I mean, it's a good question. Songs like these like really honest, emotional ones, I think it's just, it's about making sure that people aren't alone in how they feel and you know, like the trust issues that they may have, like, you know, someone like me has those too, and I'm sure like you said, like you have those things, but we don't like really talk about them. So, you know, using the song as a vessel to communicate that message is probably the most important thing.
I'm really interested because I guess our audience won't know this, but you know, we were originally speaking about possibly another song being contention for today's show. But what was it that made you skip to this one?
Yeah, I was rehearsing last night, and I think there are like, I think the concept of this show was really interesting to me. And I had to do a little bit of digging to really find the one that was appropriate for the space, but more importantly for like thematically, you know. And it's interesting because I write songs and I release them, and then I like leave them in the past, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nostalgic to come back to these songs and really like think about what they're about and where they came from. And this one just felt right.
So when you're writing sort of songs that have sort of like a deep personal meaning, right? They're intimate songs, you know, and they reveal a lot about you as a songwriter and your life as well. Mm. Is the creative process for you writing those songs different to when you're writing songs that maybe aren't of such a personal nature?
Yeah, very much so. I think, you know, writing songs and making music I always feel like it's a very collaborative art, you know, like when two humans are kind of reinforcing each other's ideas. I think that's like such a beautiful thing. But I also think there are songs that were meant to be written alone. And that's where a lot of the like really emotional moments come from. There has to be like sort of a level of comfortability when it's with another person. And, you know, that's not always the case. So I don't know, like, if either one is more difficult than the other, but I think like a song like this just comes from like such an honest place, and it's like a little more pure in nature.
Tell me what the sky looks like. There's no smoke in my eyes. California wildfires saved my lungs from heaving sighs. No, why did you go off with someone new?
Our audience is going to hear a stripped back version of this track in just a moment, but on the record, can you talk to me a little bit about the choices of instrumentation? Because, you know, I speak to a lot of artists about this and like the actual sort of conscious decision of how they arrange instrumentation within the track sometimes is there to echo or reinforce certain elements of the track which are important to the nature of it.
Well, this song specifically, I felt was very cinematic in nature, and And so I wanted to kind of complement that with strings and this like really like slower tempo and the juxtaposing of real instruments with like an 808 drum machine that might be used for like some like hard hip hop songs, you know, but it's like the perfect contrast to like a really like soft and emotional tune. And in the recording, we added a whole string arrangement, and I was originally gonna do like a little skit, and I tried it, not with me, with another vocalist, and it was like supposed to kind of reinforce the situation. But I kept trying it, and I think the strings already told the story. It was kind of redundant. And to be honest, it was getting a little corny. So,
So that latest Kendrick Lamar record.
I was listening to that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's just interesting. So actually, the strings ended up replacing the skit.
Yeah. Essentially, like they ended up like taking that lead role.
How do you approach sort of putting that vulnerability out there for the whole world to see? And, you know, sort of, what advice do you have to other artists about the importance of showing vulnerability in your art?
One of the main goals that I have is to show as much of myself as possible. And I guess along with that comes a lot of vulnerability. And the thing is, like, you're never really done telling your story. I think for me, it's like about constantly trying to shed light on who I am and my experiences. And in turn, I feel like that's something where you just have to be true to yourself. And that's sort of what's going to get the message across. And in order to be true to yourself, you have to be vulnerable, you know? So I think like just continue to tell your story. Everyone has like their own unique experiences, but they also mirror a lot of other people's experiences, you know? So yeah, I think it's just about remembering who you are and showing people like the purest form of that.
The sky looks like when it's not raining outside. Color is a privilege, and most of us see black and white. Tell me how much of me's left when all I hear is you in my hand. Why did you go off with someone new? Yeah, I emptied all my pockets and it wasn't enough for you. She left me in the dust. Now I could never trust no one. Every time I try, I get so anxious. I just wanna run, but I'm already out of breath. I'm out cold, baby, I'm out cold. Sky looks like when there's no smoke in my eyes. California wildfires saved my lungs from heaving sighs. No, did you go off with someone new? Yeah, I emptied all my pockets and it wasn't enough for you. No, it wasn't enough. She left me in the dust. Now I could never trust no one. Every time I try, I get so anxious. I just wanna run, but I'm already out of breath. I'm out cold, baby, I'm out cold. I'm out cold.
Thanks to Tim for coming on the show today. Make sure to subscribe and follow The Hardest Part wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all major streaming platforms at Spotify, YouTube, and of course Apple Podcasts. This episode of The Hardest Part was recorded at the Thin White Duke Studios in London, Soho. It is recorded by Max Walker and it is mixed and produced by myself. Additional videography is by Giovanni Almonte. Thanks for tuning in.